It was a banner day in Pittston. As tiny Master and Miss Pittston were crowned, contestants for the big event of the day anxiously waited their turn on the sidelines. As hundreds looked on, judges weighed their decisions on 4 categories: the biggest tomato, the smallest tomato, the most unusual tomato, and the ugliest tomato. The 3 judges, all farmers, took their jobs very seriously, but said picking the winners wasn't too difficult.
Well, it's quite obvious what was the smallest, what was the largest, you know.
7-year-old Sarah Lynn DePhillips grew the smallest tomatoes. Here's how.
I cooked them and I watered them. And I just picked them at a day.
Somehow, Mary Havrilla managed to beat the drought. Her super beefsteak tomato was the biggest, weighing in at 2 1/4 pounds.
I sprinkle with a sprinkler every night and babied it until, you know, and then I was afraid it was going to fall, so I made like a little platform to hold it up so it doesn't fall off the vine.
Frances Fadden grew a most unusual pair of tomatoes.
Well, they did look like faces, so I dressed them up a little to express it more.
I have won the ugliest tomato award, first prize. I have raised this from seed as I've done other years when I raised my large ones, but I just don't know what happened to it this time. It came out ugly.
You know how they say people tend to look a lot like their dogs? Do you think people tend to look like their tomatoes?
I don't believe so. Not that one. No, I don't think they do.
There's so much fuss made over Pittston tomatoes these days, we decided to find out why. They're good. Penny Lindgren, News 22 with you in Pittston. Police have a warrant to arrest the man whom they believe stole this car last Saturday, the same day 11-year-old Tim Freed of Kumbola was murdered. The man they're looking for, 24-year-old Charles Kaufman, grew up in Kumbola and returned here when he was released from a Florida prison 2 weeks ago. Here at the scene of the murder, News 22 found receipts and an owner's registration card bearing the name William Plunkett, the owner of the stolen car. That evidence links the car to the crime. So far, no arrests have been made, and the once carefree community of Kumbola is gripped by fear.
We're keeping the doors locked at all times and just keeping our eye on the kids 24 hours a day.
We keep them in more if we're out in the porch. I don't let them run around, and we haven't been up to the playground because I'm afraid she'll take off because they're only young.
They have to get to the bottom of this. The kids are afraid to go outside. It's ruining their whole... Everybody is scared.
Residents are banding together for peace of mind. Tonight they organized a crime watch and soon hope to have volunteers patrolling the neighborhoods.
And when this happens, you know the people are going to be up in arms. And if they don't soon find out who it is, I don't know what's going to happen here.
For now, the children of Kumbola will probably be spending more time under the watchful eyes of their parents than alone at the playground. Penny Lindgren, News 22, with you in Schuylkill County.
In the summer of 1972, Hurricane Agnes wreaked havoc on the Wyoming Valley. The Susquehanna River overflowed its banks, creating the worst natural disaster ever to hit this area. Well, in the midst of that destruction, 52 babies were born. News 22's Penny Lindgren talked with some flood babies and their mothers this afternoon. As the floodwaters continued to rise, wiping out homes and businesses, local hospitals found themselves in trouble. Nesbitt Memorial set up a 100-bed center on the hill here at College Misericordia. 52 babies, like Mark Chappell, shown here 2 seconds after birth, were born at the college. And for their mothers, the flood brings back happy memories.
When I say I went to college to have a baby, people kind of look at me and want to know, okay, explain that. And Mark's birth certificate does say College Misericordia, and then in parentheses, Nesbitt Hospital. So that's a little bit unusual.
Mary's son Mark and all the other flood babies turned 16 this summer. Brenda Zorinsky, also born during the flood, says she doesn't mind telling friends about her out-of-the-ordinary birth.
I told them I was a flood baby because that's the truth, and everybody thinks it's an interesting story, and the kids are saying, boy, you're born in a college. I said, yeah, I'm naturally smart, but I was just joking, and I think it's pretty neat.
Being born at College Misericordia was actually a stroke of luck for some. Any of the college's flood babies who meet admissions requirements will be awarded $4,000 four-year scholarships to go to school here.
It's really good for us, I think, because that'll give her a chance to go to college where we didn't know she'd be able to go. So that's wonderful.
Well, I'm interested in going to Misericordia in the first place, not because I was born there, but I think it's an interesting college. And I think that would be pretty neat getting a scholarship there if I can.
If Brenda is admitted, College Misericordia will once again play a very important role in her life. Penny Lindgren, News 22, with you in Luzerne County.
Some serious competition capped off a tasty weekend in Pittston. The Tomato Festival is over now, but contestants will savor the success of their fancy fruits for some time to come. Penny Lindgren has the story.
It was a banner day in Pittston. As tiny Master and Miss Pittston were crowned, contestants for the big event of the day anxiously waited their turn on the sidelines. As hundreds looked on, judges weighed their decisions on 4 categories: the biggest tomato, the smallest tomato, the most unusual tomato, and the ugliest tomato. The 3 judges, all farmers, took their jobs very seriously, but said picking the winners wasn't too difficult.
Well, it's quite obvious what was the smallest, what was the largest, you know.
7-year-old Sarah Lynn DePhillips grew the smallest tomatoes. Here's how.
I took care of them and I watered them. And I just picked them the other day.
Somehow, Mary Havrilla managed to beat the drought. Her super beefsteak tomato was the biggest, weighing in at 2 1/4 pounds.
I sprinkle with a sprinkler every night and babied it until, you know, and then I was afraid it was going to fall, so I made like a little platform to hold it up so it doesn't fall off the vine.
Frances Fadden grew a most unusual pair of tomatoes.
Well, they did look like faces, so I dressed them up a little to express it more.
I have won the ugliest tomato award, first prize. I have raised this from seed as I've done other years when I raised my large ones, but I just don't know what happened to it this time. It came out ugly.
You know how they say people tend to look a lot like their dogs? Do you think people tend to look like their tomatoes?
I don't believe so. Not that one. No, I don't think they do.
There's so much fuss made over Pittston tomatoes these days, we decided to find out why. They're good. Penny Lindgren, News 22 with you in Pittston.
Union workers from the International Paper Company in Clinton County are still locked out after a meeting with company officials and a federal mediator failed to accomplish anything today. In the meantime, tension has been building on the picket lines. Penny Lindgren is in Lock Haven. She joins us now live via Spacelink 22 with the story. Penny?
Debbie, union officials have been picketing for more than 2 months now, with no sign of any settlement with the company in sight. Picketers are beginning to feel a strain on savings now that they're only bringing home $55 a month in picket pay, and the morale is running low too.
And when you know you've given your heart and your soul, you know, to make international paper in Lock Haven what it is today, and I think most of the people have, it hurts. It hurts a lot, and you don't know what to do.
Some frustrated picketers have turned to violence. The smashed window and pellet holes in George Snyder's store window have been blamed on picketers, as have been numerous acts of violence in Lock Haven since June.
Since the 20th of June, we officially have approximately 35 incidents of official investigation which we believe are strike-related.
The state police are handling all the lockout-related violence, but they're not blaming it entirely on picketers.
They're frustrated and they're striking out. Then what happens, you have other people in the community who are not involved in the strike, but are just looking for an excuse to carry on. They follow the strikers, and what they do in effect is make a situation worse than it should be.
State police say they expect that as long as the lockout continues, so will the violence. So for the time being, it looks like the small town of Lock Haven will continue to be bitterly divided by a picket line. I'm Penny Lindgren, News 22, with you live in Lock Haven via Spacelink 22.
All right, thank you, Penny. Well, you've heard the old expression, time flies. You might have a hard time selling that to someone doing time behind bars. With so much free time on their hands, some senior inmates at the State Correctional Institution in Dallas decided it was high time to do something constructive. Penny Lindgren says their motive is purely good deeds.
At first glance, this may look like an ordinary senior citizens club, but it's unique. It's the only senior citizens club in the country that meets behind bars. It was founded 2.5 years ago for inmates over the age of 50.
I think the average age of the inmate in the prisons is somewhere around 24, but there are a lot of older fellas here. So this club was founded so that we won't have to compete with the younger fellas for sports equipment, for other activities, and to give the older citizen a chance to meet with his peers.
The club meets twice a month to discuss its charity projects, celebrate birthdays, and hear from guest speakers.
When you have a blood pressure taken, you have two numbers. One is on the top, one is on the bottom.
Today's topic was controlling blood pressure, which prompted one member to suggest that the group urge the commissary to stock salt-free items. The meetings are a welcome escape from cell blocks, which are often noisy but dull. On the block, prisoners are always referred to by number, but club meetings are conducted on a first-name basis.
Mentally, it helps you out 100%. It takes the stress off you and occupies your time, which you have to find something to occupy your time here. And it's a 100% program. I'll go with it all the way.
We support each other. We're to help each other in writing or reading or whatever the individual wants to do and lacks the ability.
About 50 inmates rely on the club to break the monotony of what for some will be a long stay. Penny Lindgren, News 22, with you in Dallas.
Go get the stick. Go get the stick. Go get the stick.
Digby is the kind of dog that every pet lover would like to own. He's friendly, he's playful, and he loves to chase sticks, no matter where you throw them.
Okay, now go get it.
Since the Felts live on Lake Norman, it's only natural that Digby, too, loves the water. Toss a stick and watch him go.
Digby, go get it!
Now, if there's one thing Digby likes to chase into the water more than sticks, it's gotta be rocks. But rocks don't float, you say. They sink to the bottom. Mm-hmm, they sure do.
Maybe you'll come up with one of them this time, yeah.
I think he's gonna get that one.
At first, I started putting things in shallow water where he could feel them with his feet while still standing on the bottom. Then he would go under and put his head under and bring them up. And then my son, Michael, trained him to dive off in deeper water and go to the bottom and get things.
And if Digby can't find it the first time,
Okay, good boy. Good boy. I've never seen a time when he looked like he was afraid of the water.
He'd just jump right in.
Even as a puppy, he just went right in.
Ready? Chasing after rocks may just be the beginning for Digby the diving dog. Mike says he has entertained thoughts of training Digby to go after sunken treasure. Sure would save on scuba gear a little.
But Larry, to protect themselves from paying out on bad checks, many banks put holds on checks, sometimes for as long as 2 weeks before crediting depositors' accounts. Consumer groups charged banks for withholding funds even after receiving payment on checks as a way to make money. But after today, that should no longer happen. Under the new rule, your bank must release your money in 1 day for a cashier's or government check, in 3 days for local checks, and in 7 days for out-of-town checks. A check is local if the leftmost 2 digits of the routing number start with 03 or 23. Otherwise, the check is non-local. The new rule won't change anything for people who are cashing checks, just deposits.
If they're going to be depositing their checks, however, it will mean that if these checks are drawn on out-of-state banks, or if they're drawn on local banks, for example, other than the bank that they're cashing the check at, it will mean that they'll receive credit to their account faster.
But in the process of making the check system run faster, the Federal Reserve is trying to create some order on the back of the check. Specifically, your endorsement must now be placed in a 1.5-inch band on the back. Some banks are insisting on the trailing edge, but the federal government doesn't care which edge you sign. For retailers with rubber stamps, the 1.5-inch requirement may mean making adjustments.
On a stamp of endorsement, And I'm talking now about, let's say, a store or a business where there are multiple deposits being made in the form of checks, where you have someone stamping the back of these and filling information. That stamp is going to have to be placed in a uniform position.
This store has already started stamping right under the endorsement within the 1.5-inch requirement. Anything that doesn't fit on the back now goes on the front. If you're accustomed to signing a great big signature across the back of your check, you might want to start writing smaller. You'll get money credited to your account much faster. Larry?
All right, some good advice, Penny. Thank you. The project is part of PennDOT's billion-dollar bridge program and opened months ahead of schedule, by the way. Those are very nice beads.
Taylor has more to say about his drug suspension.
We'll hear all about it next in sports with John Nugent. Very nice.
It was the Valley View High School marching band that got the first chance to entertain the crowd. Then the teams got their turn, with Valley View looking like a powerhouse. They've got 38 players back who saw action last year, and the fans just love them.
I think we're going all the way this year. Once Valley View, always Valley View.
I think they're great, and no matter what they do, we're always behind them.
Excellent. We're going to rebuilding year, but we're going to do it this year. We're going to go all the way with the Cougars. All right.
Scranton Central is coming back from a dismal season with 1 win and 9 losses, so the fans aren't used to much excitement. That may explain why they seem a little lifeless. But what Central may be lacking in power on the field, they make up for in support on the sidelines.
The team has got to move the ball so we can all yell and scream.
They're a little small. They've been working hard all summer. They'll have a good team.
Leaving Lackawanna County, we found the first night football frenzy in full swing here in Pittston, where the Patriots are playing the Hazleton Mountaineers. After a rotten 2-9 record last year, Hazleton was looking good tonight. Both schools, more well-known for basketball, are trying to turn their football programs around, and the fans are behind them 100%. Penny Lindgren, News 22, with you in Pittston. More than 200 runners crossed this finish line after a 3.5-mile run beside Lake Winola. They weren't all seasoned runners. There were plenty of beginners, some very serious, others just killing time while babysitting. Patty Kupstas was the female winner.
It was a nice run today. It was cool. The weather was very cooperative, and it's a nice course. They have it mapped out so that you have your fair share of hills, and traffic was no problem today. It was fun, and it was for a good cause, too.
That's why most of these runners are here, but some, including the male winner, are here for very personal reasons.
For a good cause. It was for cancer, and I have my dad. He passed away this year from cancer, so I wanted to dedicate it to him. Plus, it was a good money raiser for little Donnie. So it was a well-organized, nice race. I really look forward to running it today, and hopefully it'll come back next year.
The entry fees collected for the race will help pay for wigs for children like 9-year-old Donnie Beatty, a WYOU Operation Goldilocks poster child. A year ago, Donnie found out he had leukemia, and although he's now in the midst of chemotherapy, he ran in today's race too.
Sweat was dripping from my face and stuff.
This is the only runner who didn't seem to work up a sweat, but it was a fun event, no matter how you finished. Penny Lindgren, News 22, with you at Lake Winola.
Need something fun to do this weekend? The National Park Service could use your help. Penny Lindgren joins us now to explain. Hi, Penny.
Hi, Deb. I'm here at the Steamtown National Historic Site. Steamtown is in the process of donating its train collection, including this 1947 Reading locomotive behind me here, to the National Park Service. This summer, the National Park Service opened up a display area here to show off the trains. But the weeds and tall grass have thrived in what rain we did get this summer, and visitors have left a trail of trash. Because a lot of pictures get snapped at the display area, the National Park Service plans to get it cleaned up as part of Federal Lands Cleanup Day on Saturday. Part of the cleanup involves Big Boy, the largest locomotive in the world and Steamtown's main attraction. Big Boy has accumulated a lot of dust and grime since it was built in 1941. A local company has volunteered to pressure wash it on Saturday at noon. Joining me now is Jim Reed of the National Park Service. Jim, have you got enough help lined up for Saturday?
We have some, Penny, but we could use all the help we can get, including individuals and family members in particular. All that we do ask is that they bring some of their own tools for grass cutting and weed pulling.
What sort of long-range plans does the National Park Service have for the Steamtown train collection and this site?
Well, this yard will be an actual working rail yard. Steam locomotives will be moving freight cars around in the yard, and the passenger excursions will be leaving right from this yard here.
Thank you very much. Jim Reed of the National Park Service. Lots of history here, Deb.
Seems that way, Penny. Thank you, and thank you, Jim, too. Larry?
There and said you were against it. That's not fair. No, I won't. Shut up.
These people don't want to pay $1 a bag for garbage pickup. That's what they came to tell Borough Council.
That's terrible.
People are so angry about the garbage fee, they threatened to throw council members out of office if they voted for it.
We've been patient, but we are exhausting the tolerance that we've had in the past. We will not mince any words, and we therefore say to each individual council member, do you, each member, want another term?
In spite of vigorous protests from this group, Borough Council voted 4-3 in favor of a garbage fee.
Signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Nay.
Nay. I have like a bag a week. It won't be too bad for me, but for the others, it'll be murder.
I'm going to be paying a lot more than $120 a year now. I would have much rather that, and they come back with a compromise that's going to cost me more.
The majority of council members feel a garbage fee is unavoidable, in spite of the reaction here.
I don't think this is a true representative of the voting of Edwardsville. I feel confident that if a referendum vote was taken, that we would be reelected.
Our budget isn't going to be solved by penny, nickel, and dime things here and there, and we're not trying to solve it with the garbage fee. We're just trying to pay for our garbage.
The ordinance now moves to the desk of Edwardsville's mayor.
I got 10 days to decide. I got 10 days to decide.
Penny Lindgren, News 22, with you in Edwardsville.
And Penny tells us that some folks out there feel that the mayor will not take any action on the ordinance, and thus it will automatically become law in 10 days.
What are all these people doing out in the rain? I'm Penny Lindgren with you in Dallas. I'll tell you about the Greater Wilkes-Barre Triathalon coming up.
It is the Super Bowl of triathlons. Hundreds of people swimming nearly a mile, cycling 25, and then running for 6, all in a driving rain. News 22's Penny Lindgren followed the progress of one Pennsylvania competitor who is as much a natural beauty as she is a natural athlete.
Race day for 25-year-old Harveys Lake native Maureen Connolly began at 5:30 this morning. Her breakfast of champions, toast, and a concoction she calls Ultra Energy.
It's not only a fluid replacement, but it's also liquid food in the fact that it's 98% carbohydrates, and it has some essential amino acids, and it digests very easily. I don't have to worry about bacon or eggs or something like that.
At 7:15, it was time for a quick warm-up on her bike. Meanwhile, others were donning wetsuits and warming up here. They came from all over the country to compete for over $33,000 in prize money. Shortly after 8 o'clock, 2,000 triathletes started the 1.5-kilometer swim across the lake in heats of 200. Maureen was in the first heat.
I just want to get out of the water as fast as possible. You're just, as soon as the gun goes off, you're just racing the clock, and every second counts. So I'm just trying to go as fast as possible. I'm pulling as hard as possible. At first, my legs will feel a little heavy coming out of the water. The bike, due to the fact that it's raining today, it will affect me in the fact that I won't be able to attack the course the way I would have planned. My race wheels are very light, and I don't have that much traction on the road, so it's going to be a little hairy. The bike is just all legs, and that is my strongest event. I have cyclist legs, I guess you could say.
So how's your body feeling by the time you get to the run?
Your legs are fatigued. They're rubbery. You get off the bike and your legs feel rubbery at first. And it takes a good quarter mile to really get into a groove and start feeling strong.
Not only is Maureen a competitive athlete, her winning appearance and personality captured the Irish pageant title of Mary of Dunlow out of a field of 23 in July.
It's a nice diversity. Racing is very intense, but the pageant was it was an experience of a lifetime also. I was very surprised I won. I was not there as a true competitor.
But she's a true competitor here, hoping to finish in the top 20. Finally, after a soggy, grueling 2 hours and 25 minutes, Maureen crossed the finish line under a cloudburst that seemed to follow her the entire race.
My run was like the weather, miserable. I just didn't, I would have liked to have broken, like I should have been around 2:20, I think. I was hesitant on the bike because of the slick roads. There were some accidents right in front of me, so I slowed up quite a bit. Oh well, what can I say?
Well, Maureen didn't finish in the top 20. She figures she was 34th. A quick hug from the family, and she's already talking about the next race.
Now the serious training starts for Hawaii, so that'll be a different story, hopefully.
Penny Lindgren, News 22, with you at the Greater Wilkes-Barre Triathlon in Dallas.
Penny Lindgren joins us with a live report. Penny?
Deb, police are calling the arrest of the man believed to have set this two-story home on fire in August a significant arrest. Police questioned hundreds of people about this fire, and finally the man they brought in for questioning today confessed. 23-year-old Steve Miller of Kingston told police he used matches to set a bundle of papers on fire on a side porch of this house. 2 women sleeping on the first floor were rescued by a passerby. Meanwhile, Miller walked to a cousin's house and went to bed. At a press conference this afternoon, police announced that Miller will also be charged with setting 2 other Plymouth fires.
He will be charged also with the fire at 21 Row Lane in Plymouth Borough, which occurred on August the 16th, 1988.
Miller, charged today with arson and related offenses, was taken to the Luzerne County Jail on $50,000 bail. If convicted, he faces a maximum of 20 years in prison and a $25,000 fine. Altogether, there have been 9 arson fires in Plymouth this summer. Police have yet to solve 5 of those cases, mostly garbage and car fires. Because of the danger and the damage involved in this fire, police considered this one the big one. Deb?
So, Penny, what's the word in the town? What are the neighbors saying? How are they reacting to the arrest?
Well, Deb, neighbors here told me they've been living in fear. One man said he went out and bought a whole new alarm system for his home. He also told me that today's arrest is a great relief. Back to you.
Thank you, Penny Lindgren, reporting live tonight from Plymouth.
A small army of past, present, and future Lakeland Junior Band members passed out petitions and put up posters to convey this message. They want their school board to bring back their band teacher, John Petrovsky.
When he teaches you, it doesn't really seem like he's teaching. It feels like he's a friend. It's easier to learn when you're having fun and you're interested.
Perhaps that's why the band grew from 16 members to more than 100 in only 4 months under Petrovsky's direction. Even the parents were impressed.
I just think he's a great teacher, and we want him back as well as we want the program back.
John Petrovsky taught band here all summer. Just a few days before classes started, he asked the superintendent why he hadn't received a letter asking him to report to work. He was told he was no longer a member of the faculty.
I felt a year and a half of work going down the tubes. Immediately I thought of the kids. I felt very sorry for the kids. It's easier to teach the kids on the higher end of the level. What I'm worried about is the kids on the lower end, the kids who really need it as far as self-esteem, pride, and just overall accomplishment.
This is the band that John Petrovsky built. Band members say they'll miss the individual attention they got from Petrovsky, unless, of course, their loud chorus convinces the school board to change its tune. Penny Lindgren, News 22, with you in Justice. One look at the twisted wreckage of this Mustang and you can imagine that the crash was serious. It was. Troop police spotted the car speeding through this intersection around 1 a.m. They gave chase and followed the speeding car into Dunmore. Along this stretch, the Mustang passed several cars and stayed in the left lane. When police got to this curve, they say they slowed down and watched in horror as the Mustang slid into this pole at about 70 miles per hour. The car broke in two. The front half and one boy landed 2 doors down. The other half landed here with one boy. Another boy landed over by the flowers. And a fourth boy, Danny Sullivan, landed here in the driveway.
Well, I heard a siren, and then I heard a crash.
and that was it. It was an awful sorry sight here. Oh boy, it looked like a battlefield. Bodies all over the place, car parts, half a car here, half down there. Unbelievable, unbelievable.
3 boys died at the scene. Joseph DePietro was in his second year at Penn State's Worthington campus. John Pica, the driver, was working full-time at his father's garage. John Murphy was in his second year at Johnson Technical Institute studying to be a mechanic. Danny Sullivan, a sophomore at Penn State's Worthington campus, is listed in critical condition at the Community Medical Center. All 4, aged 19, grew up together in Dunmore. Some of their friends gathered at the scene, wearing the pain of loss on their faces. They say the boys were all good kids and were absolutely not involved with drugs. Why the chase? Officer Neil Furiosi says it's a judgment call.
Highway, at that rate of speed coming through an intersection, you're coming up over a knoll. There could have been vehicles crossing the intersection of Dunmore and Line Street, and at that rate of speed, you never know what you'd come upon.
Some of those left grieving don't see it that way and wonder whether it was police who turned a dangerous joyride into tragedy. Penny Lindgren, News 22, with you in Dunmore. Well, Larry, an 87-year-old invalid is dead, his wife injured, following a house fire here on 4th Street in Blakeley. The fire broke out just before 3 p.m., apparently on the first floor. By the time firemen arrived, fire had fully engulfed the inside of this home with 87-year-old Alvoida Bidwell trapped inside. Firemen found him dead in a reclining chair on the first floor. 85-year-old Ruth Bidwell suffered burns on 50% of her body. She was taken by ambulance to the Community Medical Center in Scranton for the time being. The couple's 60-year-old son, Alvoida, escaped with minor injuries. The son told me his father fell asleep while smoking a cigar and that the fire started in the chair where he was sitting. The victim had a wooden leg and other health problems that made it impossible for him to escape. His wife is listed in stable condition. Larry? Deb? Larry, behind me is all that remains of the Bidwell home here on 4th Street in Blakeley, the scene of a tragic fire this afternoon. Just before 3 p.m., fire broke out on the first floor of 208 4th Street. Within minutes, the whole first floor was engulfed in flames.
I ran downstairs, I saw my father in flames. I knew I couldn't do nothing for him, so I grabbed my mother and threw her out the door.
85-year-old Ruth Bidwell suffered burns on 50% of her body and was taken by ambulance to a local hospital. Meanwhile, firemen worked frantically to rescue her husband, an 87-year-old invalid. Firemen found him dead in a reclining chair on the first floor.
He was a great cigar smoker, and apparently the cigar fell into the chair where the fire originated. He had a wooden leg, and besides that, he was really crippled up. In fact, there's hospital beds and commodes and wheelchairs and everything indicative of an invalid.
Ruth Bidwell is listed in stable condition at the Community Medical Center right now. She lost not only her husband in this fire, but also her dog. Luckily, her son seems to be all right. Larry, Deb?
Sad story, Penny. Thank you.
Larry, the city wants to knock down Howard Ufberg's furniture store down this way and 16 other buildings here along Lackawanna Avenue. It's targeting Ufberg first because he's been the wedge in the deal. He tried to prevent the city from condemning his building, but a federal judge gave the city the okay.
No, I got that too.
The city's redevelopment authority filed its declaration of taking against Ufberg's furniture store today. That means the city now has legal title to the property by power of eminent domain. Ufberg has 30 days to file preliminary objections. Ufberg could not be reached for comment, but the city expects him to object. If he doesn't, a special board will determine the fair market value of his property. Both the city and Ufberg have the right to go to trial over that one. And you know, when you hear the word trial, it often means delays. The redevelopment authority figures the Ufberg matter will be settled a year from now. In the meantime, depending on how things go, the city will begin invoking the power of eminent domain on the other properties in the way of the mall, an area it describes as blighted.
Close to 80% of the floor space in the area where the mall is to be built is vacant property, is not leased.
The redevelopment authority says it is expecting the worst in the Ufberg matter, but it had to do something on the mall in order to hang on to a $13 million grant from the federal government. Still, whatever happens in the Ufberg matter will set a precedent for all the condemnations to come. Larry?
All right, Penny, the latest chapter in that continuing story on the mall. Thank you.
And so it goes.
News 22's Penny Lindgren joins us now live in Scranton with word on his big day. Penny?
Russ, right now, Frank Carlucci is up on Montage Mountain attending a dinner, but just an hour ago, he was right here on Courthouse Square in Scranton for a special ceremony. Frank Carlucci, his wife Marcia, and their 8-year-old daughter Kristen were greeted by the people of Scranton and given a warm welcome by the Ringgold Band. State and local officials were on hand to present the Secretary of Defense with a key to the city. Earlier in the day, Carlucci received a 19-gun salute upon his arrival at the Kingston Armory, where he reviewed Pennsylvania Army National Guard troops. He then administered the oath of enlistment to a group of new recruits. The Secretary of Defense placed a wreath on a monument honoring 33 members of the Guard's 109th Field Artillery, killed in a train wreck in 1950, after being called for duty in the Korean conflict. Born in Scranton in 1930, Carlucci is a former Bear Creek resident and has held numerous governmental positions since joining the Foreign Service in 1956. In 1972, he was selected by President Nixon to direct federal flood relief efforts here after Hurricane Agnes. He noticed things have changed.
As I flew over by helicopter from the airport into the Army, I looked out and I said, now where are the mobile homes? And I didn't see any mobile homes. I saw bustling shopping centers. I saw a lot of automobiles. I saw a city rebuilt.
Now, as Secretary of Defense, Carlucci takes a hard line on budget cuts to his department.
There's no free lunch. When you cut the defense budget, something has to go. You take away the weapons from those people, or you take away some of their ammunition, or some of their equipment, or you lower the quality.
A group of protesters confronted Carlucci on the role of the National Guard in Central America, arguing that the troops are being used as political pawns. The protesters also say that they're opposed to the nation's Star Wars defense program, but Carlucci says we're on such exceptionally good terms right now with the Soviet Union and other nations, it's no time to throw away the leverage that got us there. Russ? A landfill here in Ransom Township will bring the total to 13 former, existing, or proposed toxic landfills, incinerators, or dump sites in Lackawanna County. Angry residents gathered to voice their opposition.
I was on a plane coming from San Francisco, and a woman I'm talking to, and she said, where do you live? I says, Clark Summit. And she says, is that outside of Scranton? I said, yes. She said, oh, we send all our garbage to you. She's from New Jersey. I mean, it's to the point, you don't even want to say where you're from. I wanted to throw her out of the plane. I was so mad.
You don't want to build a house and have it depreciate. You want it to be worth something, you know, something to give to your kids. And now this, I'd want to sell it now, but who'd buy it, right?
Besides reduced property values, people are most concerned about health hazards from toxic waste, contaminated wells, and traffic. The Sierra Club is concerned about the environment.
Every landfill is going to leak sooner or later. The more landfills you have, the more eventual leakage you'll have.
Attorney Diane Beamer volunteered her expertise to help get the group started. Others who have been involved with lead contamination in Troup and a proposed incinerator in Dunmore came to offer their insights. These people have declared war on the proposed landfill. They say they plan to stay mad, scrutinize the actions of their local representatives, and keep the pressure on them. I'm Penny Lindgren, News 22, with you in Ransom Township. Well, Scranton police arrested a man and a woman carrying a large amount of heroin this afternoon as part of the city's crackdown on drugs. This is the second heroin seizure in just over a week. Based on a tip, police watched as the couple left their home on North Sumner Avenue this morning, and they were waiting for them when they came back this afternoon. Police arrested Joseph Hashem III and Karen Harris this afternoon with a load of heroin they picked up in New York City. The couple now faces 5 drug charges, which could mean 15 years in prison and a possible $250,000 fine. Lackawanna County District Attorney Ernie Priate blamed heroin for 9 overdose deaths in the area, and he says the drug is being pushed because it's more expensive. Now, today, police confiscated 125 bags of heroin, which would have been cut and sold on the street here for $10,000. Police also confiscated the couple's '87 Buick, which has a whopping 87,000 miles on it. Police say there are a lot more drug arrests on their agenda. Russ?
Penny, any word on whether the suspects arrested today may have been involved in allegedly dealing to any of the people who died from the heroin overdoses in the city?
Well, Russ, at this point, police say they're not sure, but it's something that they certainly will be investigating.
Thank you very much. Penny Lindgren live at Scranton Police Headquarters.
12-year-old Michelle Salerno never came home last night.
We searched all over the place for her, and we couldn't turn her up any place. I thought I'd never see her again.
Michelle came home this afternoon. She had run away with a girlfriend and found out it was more of an adventure than she had bargained for.
Well, I was cold last night, so I don't really know. Because I just had this on and I was frozen, so.
Did you get hungry?
Yeah, I came home and I ate a lot.
Most runaways don't plan ahead. They just leave and find themselves without food, money, or a safe place to stay. In order to survive on the street, they often turn to crime, and their numbers are increasing.
We made double last year's figures, which is astounding. We've been running about 250, 260 maybe tops runaway situations per year. We had over 200 situations by July, and I have no way of knowing why that's happening. But
generally, running is a response to a situation that a teenager perceives as intolerable. It's a cry for help.
The parent needs to tune in more to what the child is saying and feeling, not just what is right or wrong.
By running away, teens often find themselves trapped in a vicious circle, escaping one problem only to fall into another. Well, what do you think you learned from this?
It's going to be hard out there when I grow up.
Experts say good family communication is the best way to keep teenagers on the right track. Penny Lindgren, News 22, with you in West Pittston. Is 628 Deacon Street a case for the Ghostbusters?
It began underneath my chair. Powerful, loud thuds, and it went right across the floor as though someone were walking, pounding, but there is nothing under here. But
Helen Barnett moved into this house 16 years ago. Strange things have been going on ever since her father cut this hole into the attic.
while we were in that hallway on this particular night, it was, if you could envision, like three grown men with heavy boots on, kicking for all they were worth on that trap door. One workman in question left the job half done in this stairway here and said, "You don't owe me nothing. I'm not coming back. I'm not finishing the job. There's something crazy going on in this house."
Helen says there's a pattern to the strange noises she hears. They start about 2 weeks after a tenant moves into one side of her house and stop shortly after the tenant moves out.
About 2 nights ago, it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I went up to bed, and I heard like the dragging of a box, and then I heard footsteps, I should say. I think there's a spirit of some sort lingering.
Bonnie isn't the first tenant who's heard the noises. Helen says a string of others have moved in and then quickly moved out because of unnatural events. Helen is to the point where she, too, is ready to move. Penny Lindgren, News 22, with you in Scranton. The Vietnam War ended 14 years ago, but over 2,000 Americans are still missing. And these veterans are still marching, part of their battle to bring the others home. The vets report hundreds of life sightings in Laos and Cambodia during the past year alone. They believe the Vietnamese are holding the Americans for their own gain.
To understand them is something. They just want the money that we promised them and the aid and trade policy that we promised them, that our negotiators promised them in Paris to end the war. And our government reneged on it.
When it comes to MIAs and POWs, these veterans share a common nightmare. It could have been any one of them.
Would you be happy living in a cage, working like a slave, getting very little to eat, just enough to keep you alive?
The only thing that's keeping them going probably is a lot of prayer and hopefully thinking somebody back here does care enough to push the issue to go and get them.
The goal of the march is to get a response from politicians on an issue that's supposed to have had the highest priority for the past 8 years. These vets say they feel the success of their cause won't rest entirely on the shoulders of the next president.
It has to be everybody. Everybody has to get behind this and has to everybody has to back each other up, including backing the politicians up to get this resolved, because it's gone on too long.
And until then, the issue will continue to haunt us, and we're running out of time. Penny Lindgren, News 22, with you in Avoca.
Penny, what is it?
Well, Deb, I've stood here on Lackawanna Avenue time and time again to tell you the latest developments in the seemingly endless mall controversy, but it appears it's a controversy no more. Mayor David Wenzel made a surprise announcement at a Chamber of Commerce luncheon this afternoon that all lawsuits in the way of the mall project have been settled out of court.
I don't have all the details, I wish I could give you more, but at this point right now, it looks as if our mall project is on track again, and we're ready to really get moving along with this. And I'll tell you one thing, I'm very happy about that.
Mayor Wenzel told me a little while ago that a sale price has been agreed on for Sam Starr's uniform store behind me here and the Ufberg Furniture Store a little further down the street. Mayor Wenzel also says that the Architectural Heritage Association has agreed to have a development expert look at the mall plans and come up with some suggestions for incorporating some of these historic buildings into the mall project. Mayor Wenzel says the city will now proceed with friendly condemnations, and within 2 years, we should have a new mall in Scranton. Larry, Deb?
Well, how do you like that, Penny? For once and for all, the mall. All right, thanks. Penny Lindgren reporting live from Lackawanna Avenue.
Well, Larry, at midnight, the Scranton State General Hospital behind me will close its emergency room, and no new patients will be admitted. It's the first step toward a complete shutdown in December and part of the state's effort to get out of the hospital business. But there's still a lot of bad feeling about this shutdown. Diane Chindemi is one of the hospital's 184 employees. She works in the emergency room, which is closing at midnight, and says the morale here is very low. She says she doesn't know what she'll do when the hospital closes and is concerned that patients who've depended on this hospital will be at a disadvantage.
We treat all the patients that come in here are treated like they're part of our extended family.
The admissions office will also close tonight. Only 10 patients remain, and they will be relocated so that the hospital can be completely shut down in December. Employees are very upset about the scheduled closing of the hospital, but so are senior citizens who will try next Wednesday to convince the Commonwealth Court that this hospital should stay open. Larry?
Thanks, Penny, for the live report. Jeb?
Larry, in just 1 hour, these doors to Scranton State General Hospital's emergency room will be locked and closed for good, and no new patients will be admitted as the hospital begins to wind down its operation. All was quiet in the emergency unit this evening. All beds empty. These nurses, putting in their last shift, say they don't know what they'll do next.
I don't know. I don't know where I'm going to go. I don't know what I'm going to do. The state's not offering a whole lot in the line of jobs that are local.
The nurses say the state promised jobs for all, but most of those available are the graveyard shifts at faraway hospitals. They're not out of work yet. The hospital isn't scheduled to close until next month. But for the nurses, tonight is a tearful beginning of the end.
Most of us, I think, did feel we had gone through all of the phases of mourning, and we reached the point of resignation. But today we realized that we truly didn't.
No, they're mourning their losses tonight. The nurses, their friends, and other employees have gathered here in the parking lot of Scranton State General Hospital for a candlelight vigil. It's their way of saying a peaceful farewell to the two departments closed tonight. Larry? Deb?
All right, Penny, thank you.
Thank you, Penny.
The Republicans call it the big lie, but it seemed to sell well today in Wilkes-Barre. Good evening, I'm Russ Spencer. Vice presidential candidate Lloyd Bentsen told a gathering of senior citizens that their Social Security checks are safer in the hands of the Democrats. His visit to Wilkes-Barre comes amid speculation that this week's debate between Democrat Michael Dukakis and Vice President George Bush makes the Republicans' lead even stronger. One thing is certain, Pennsylvania voters will play a vital role in choosing the next president. News 22's Penny Lindgren followed Lloyd Bentsen today.
Democratic vice presidential candidate Lloyd Bentsen and his wife Beryl Ann, or B.A., were greeted by local Democrats as they stepped off their plane and into a waiting motorcade headed for Wilkes College. There, Bentsen first won over the crowd of senior citizens with remarks about his 94-year-old father calling him up in Washington with political advice, before getting down to the issue of Social Security.
That's something your hard-earned money is taken for, deducted from your paycheck, and put into that fund to protect your retirement. And Mike Dukakis and Lloyd Bentsen are totally committed to see that that's done.
Bentsen criticized the Republicans' claims that they'll protect Social Security funds.
You better hold on to that Social Security card, because they're going to try to cut it, just as they've tried to cut Medicare. Don't just read their lips. Look at the record and see what they've done.
Afterwards, Benson told the press the fact that the Democrats are currently trailing in the polls doesn't mean they won't pull ahead by Election Day.
With Jack Kennedy, we were 8 points behind the weekend before the election and won it. And you remember the stories of Harry Truman? The press had written him off, and yet his crowds kept getting larger and larger.
Pennsylvania is considered a swing vote state full of Reagan Democrats, conservatives who vote Democratic locally, but who voted for Reagan in the last presidential election. Benson is considered very popular with this group.
I think he's a great candidate. I think Dukakis is a great candidate. I think we need them both in there. We want somebody that does something, not only say maybe I think or maybe I don't know what I'm going to do next.
I thought you had a very nice speech, and I was for him before I came, and now I'm more for him than ever.
Some of the books.
Benson left Wilkes-Barre, headed for New York, another swing vote state where the Democrats are trying to hold on to a slight lead. Penny Lindgren, News 22, with you in Wilkes-Barre.
Oh yeah, we got a little lately. Stop the shop at the mall. Yes. Is everybody ready? Well, you got a lot of supporters here, I'll tell you. They're not ready. Bob, we can all do this at one time, so. Yeah, we're going to go live again, but that's fine. Oh, are you? Yeah. When are you going live? About a minute. Are these commercials? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know. That's okay. We're just going to take a minute. Have them roll tape back there, too. Roll tape back there, too, please. Lots of things. No. Tell them to roll tape too, Bob. Pardon me? Yeah, roll tape too. Roll tape too. Can you slide over this way a little bit? Slide over there. Me? That okay for you? See, this is fun. What are we waiting for? Not on the audio. Put it down a little bit. Okay. Here's the commercial inside. Is that all what it is? Testing from Dave. Test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What am I supposed to look at? Pardon me? What do I look at? Oh, you look right at me. Yes. Larry and Deb, John F. Kennedy Jr. had some of the same problems many folks in northeastern Pennsylvania have right now, Republican and Democrat, and that's traffic flow. But thanks to an assist from some local police departments, he arrived here just about a minute ago. And Mr. Kennedy, welcome to our area. First of all, let me ask you the same thing I asked the governor a few minutes ago. There are a lot of people that say that there are too many names in this campaign and name calling. What about that?
Well, I've heard the same thing, obviously. It's not why I'm here. I'm here because my family has a long connection with the area, and I had an opportunity to come and say some good things about Mike Dukakis, and I jumped at it. So that's what I'm concerned with.
Do you see Pennsylvania as an important state in this campaign, more so than others?
Well, I think absolutely. But I rather than try to venture in to political minutiae that I don't really know a lot about. I know about this area, and I know about Scranton and Wilkes-Barre, and so and I know that they're very important to the state as a whole. So I assume that's why they suggested that I come here.
Why are you going to tell people to support Mike Dukakis?
Well, my perspective on it is I shouldn't make political pronouncements because I'm not a candidate and I'm not running, but I know Mike Dukakis for many years through connections that we've had with our family in Massachusetts, and I know him to be a governor of extraordinary character and judgment, and that all of Democrats, I think, felt very proud when he was made our nominee in Atlanta, and I think that the campaign that he has conducted has been a credit, and I just encourage everyone to go out there and show their support for him, and it's not over yet.
You've seen the tremendous support for your name being here tonight. What about the future for you from a candidate point of view?
Well, I'm just trying to finish my last year at law school, so I'm just taking it one day at a time for now.
Thank you very much. Larry and Deb, back to you. Thank you, sir. Thanks very much.
Hi.
Valley and Clark County. I'm going to be very brief because you can see what's standing behind me and nobody wants to see or listen to me. To be honest with you, I'm happy to see some guys out there. I knew the girls were going to be there. At this time, we've got a great forum up here today. It is my honor to introduce one of the great names in Pennsylvania. I mean, in this area, if your name came. Thank you for coming. Thank you very much. I know many of you have been here a long time, and I gather I'm late, and so I apologize for that. And had a little trouble finding our way, but I'm glad I finally got here, and it's great to be back here. So thank you all for coming very much, and thank you for that kind introduction. I haven't done a lot of campaigning for my new caucus this election, and I was lucky enough to do a few things. I'm in law school, so my time is somewhat split, but when the opportunity came up to come back here to Wilkes-Barre, I jumped at it because it is a place that I and members of my family hold with great affection. My father was here on October 29, 1960, which, if you counted, is almost 28 years to the day from today. And in the mythology that we hear in my family, that was the crescendo of a long and ultimately successful campaign. And I think your town and my family certainly feels that it was the people of Wilkes-Barre, the people of Pennsylvania who worked as much as anybody else to put my father into the White House back then. So thank you. The challenge is to do it for another son of Massachusetts and another friend of Pennsylvania, Mr. Michael Dukakis, so I hope to show him the same support. I have some clippings that I was given the last time I was in Wilkes-Barre from my father's trip. I was here in 1980 with my Uncle Teddy, and I got to spend a whole day here. I went to some families' homes, I got to speak with people, I went into their families, I visited a school, and it was a great day. There's one little difference, that Teddy didn't quite make it to the White House, but Michael Dukakis is going to make it to the White House. Yeah! So let's give him to that. I was reluctant to give, I was given kind of a long speech and with issues and statistics and the rest of it, and I felt that it probably really wasn't the most appropriate thing because I'm not running and I'm not the candidate and I'm not from here, and so I felt that I really couldn't come down here and tell you what you should do or how to think or how to vote. But I thought that the best thing that I could do was talk about Michael Dukakis, and the man that I have come to know through years in Massachusetts and events in that state honoring various members of my family. He's a man of incredible character and judgment, of great personal integrity, and as we've seen, that in the tradition of other great presidents such as FDR, and Truman, and my father, he's committed to the needs of the working families and committed to building an America that is prosperous at home and respected abroad. And in Atlanta, I was at the convention. I was proud to see he was my nominee, and I've been proud of the way he's conducted himself throughout this campaign. And I think as Democrats, we should all be proud that Michael Dukakis is carrying our country. I think in choosing Lloyd Benson, who is a man who has been years in public service, ran a successful business, I think Mike Dukakis showed that he has great respect for the office of the Vice President. Yes. And when Dan Quayle compared himself to my father, I thought that Senator Benson said it in a way that people from Wilkes-Barre who were lucky enough to be around in 1960 and saw my father, I think his words were as simply and eloquent as someone I hear might say it. I think that you all remember what they were, that he just was no Jack Kennedy. So I trust all of you are going to go out and work hard between now and November 8th to vote for Mike Dukakis, and I know you're all going to vote for him on November 8th. So thank all of you for coming, and thank all of you for giving me a chance to let me speak to you today and talk about some of the connections that Wilkes-Barre has with the great Democratic presidents of our history. And I have one thing I have to mention here. Where is it? Take your time. It's a Get Out the Vote. It's on October 29th. No, it's not there anymore. Okay, on the 11th Congressional District, Get Out the Vote training session on Saturday, October 29th, 101 to 103 South Main Street, Wilkes-Barre, 12 p.m. Thanks very much.
I just want you to know that your dad won this area big. And when I come to think of it, politicians from Massachusetts have a history of doing well in northeastern Pennsylvania.